A war of words has erupted after U.S. lawmakers raised security concerns about two of China's top telecom firms. Beijing has accused the Americans of Chinese bashing. One of those companies, Huawei, has business interests in this country. You heard Michael Kane in the Business News talk about him. Should we be putting Canada on high alert for high-tech gadgetry? Claudiu Popa is the CEO and Principal Risk Advisor for Informatica. Joins us now in the studio. Morning.
Good morning.
One of the problems we, the great unwashed, have is we don't understand this stuff. Like we don't have tech expertise in this high-tech stuff. We need people to help us. It was interesting that this company, Huawei, is in Canada. They have shops in a couple different places. They have hundreds of employees in Canada. They've been here a while. What's wrong with them? Why are the Americans screaming about them? What is it we're supposed to be on the lookout for?
Well, it's interesting because a congressional report just came out and it said we should stay away from this company because of reasons we can't tell you about. National security reasons. There is a secondary report that is classified. We can't tell you why, but we believe that these guys are not free of foreign influence at the highest levels.
Yes.
And so we look at this company and we see that they're the second largest in the world.
Yeah, but I mean, U.S. intelligence is hardly nonpartisan either.
That's right.
I mean, so why should we believe them? Maybe they're just doing this because they, I mean...
You sound just like WikiLeaks. That's the argument. We haven't seen any WikiLeaks report on this, so we don't have both sides of the argument. But the fact is...
Their boss is busy.
That's right. He is. He's taking up his time somewhere in hiding. But the issue here is huge. It's complex. It has political ramifications. There's a lot of money involved. This is an organization that is in Canada, that is in the States, that deals with IBM, Accenture, all the largest companies. It's a supplier to Bell, to TELUS, to SaskTel. And so they're entrenched in Canada and the States.
Okay, what is it they supply? What is it they do?
Telecommunications equipment.
Like what?
Well, routers, modems, connectivity.
Okay, that sounds kind of like hardware.
It's the kind of stuff that powers the internet. So suddenly you're talking about access to data on a global scale. We're talking about accessing information that powers the world. And do we want that kind of vulnerability to exist at the critical national infrastructure level? Because it's one thing for Bell to rely on routers or other technology created by these guys or cell phones being sold to the population. But it's quite another for an organization of this scale and this magnitude to power the world and have its tentacles into data at all the right levels.
How do they? Yeah, but I'm having trouble understanding how, if they sell me a router and I install the router, how does that make my data vulnerable to them?
That's the thing. And so that's where the complexity comes in. The fact is, technology can be made to be open to updates, to software updates. So even if it's secure today,
which would come from China?
Update, that's right. And the software update tomorrow could come from China, and it would have a backdoor or a way to access it remotely that would give information to parties that we don't want to give access to. But I think that the issue is so broad and so high level that it's worth simplifying. And the way I simplify it so that I can understand it, it comes down to three things. One is evidence. Do we have the evidence that we can share with the public to let them know on what basis we are excluding these guys? Because Canada has just invoked its national security exemption on the basis of, in great part, this U.S. congressional report. And do we have the evidence? No one has shared it. They've said that we have had concerns about this organization for a long time. But what are those concerns? We have tied them to a number of activities. Is this a criminal organization? No one's going to say. The second point is transparency. And the third is process. If, in fact, you have an audit and due diligence process, it can't be qualitative. You can't say, well, I kind of like them. I kind of think that they're shady. It has to be a numeric thing. There have to be metrics. It needs to be a quantitative thing. There has to be a score at the end of the day. And if the score is not met, then we exclude them. But if they pass, then on what basis can we exclude
Well, we're getting
them?
the warning from the same people that told us there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
That's right.
Right. They lied then. Who knows what they're doing now? That's not enough. We can't just take their say-so. That's not enough. So how do we do due diligence? Who do we task to do that?
Well, you know what? Bell Canada has said, look, we've done our due diligence. We have the highest degree of security. We impose it upon ourselves and upon our suppliers. Our supply chain is secure. TELUS would say the exact same thing. Obviously, they're partners with this organization. It's one thing for organizations to do business with any supplier they want. It's quite another to bring in an international corporation to provide critical national infrastructure. Critical infrastructure protection is invoked at that point, and we have to see if there's a national security risk. And that, we are told, cannot be gauged using the current techniques, because we cannot tell if they put a router in front of us whether that router is going to be hacked tomorrow, and if it is going to be hacked tomorrow, will they be the prime beneficiaries of the data that is compromised as a result of that hack. So everything they might sell us for 10 years might be secure, and then 10 years and 1 minute later we get something that is hackable. But can we use that argument to exclude them? I don't think so. Because
but here's what preys in people's minds. One is, there have been cyber attacks for the last decade coming out of China.
Right.
They have attacked U.S. government, U.S. military, Canadian businesses. I mean, these attacks are suspected to be linked in some way to Chinese intelligence.
Suspected.
Suspected. Yeah, I don't know that it's been proven
yet.
That's
right. There's the evidence.
So, well, that's an indicator.
There's my point around the evidence.
But you know what's really interesting is the ownership of Huawei is a very opaque thing. Nobody apparently seems to know exactly who owns it. That is a huge red flag. That's a two-handed red flag. Why don't they, I mean, if they're above board and they're clean as a whistle, they're just doing good business around the world, why don't they come clean on ownership? Who runs the company and why?
I think they've tried to do that.
Yeah?
And the fact is they can only give so much information around the influence that comes. Obviously, we know who started the company. It's an old general from the communist days, and we know enough that would serve to placate regular organizations. But can we trust them for critical national infrastructure? No. Can we trust their government to be open and transparent? No. But does that mean we shouldn't be open and transparent about the evidence that exists against them? I think it's the right time to be a little bit more open with taxpayers, and that might sway public opinion this way, rather than the fact that this vendor is now trying to sway public opinion their way and saying they're being picked on unfairly.
Yeah. Well, we will watch with interest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Always good to see. Claudiu Popa is the principal risk advisor for Informatica.